The night was heavy with silence, the kind that presses against the soul like an unseen force. Daniel sat at his desk, staring at the pile of documents scattered before him. The papers bore his name, his signature, his legacy, and yet, in that very moment, he felt as if it was slipping away, one piece at a time. It had started subtly, a missing paper here, an unsigned document there. At first, he brushed it off as oversight, but then the phone calls began. Strange, cryptic messages from unknown numbers. A voice, low and deliberate, whispering things that sent a chill down his spine. They are coming for you. It has already begun. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. He wasn't a man given paranoia, but something inside him told him to pay attention. He reached for a file that had been lying on his desk for weeks. It contained details of the land his father had left him, a place he had built from the ground up, the symbol of his family's hard work. But as he flipped through the pages, his hands trembled. His name was missing. Instead, there was another, his cousin, Matthew, the very man he had trusted with everything. The shock crashed over him like a tidal wave. Could it be? Could Matthew have betrayed him? As he tried to steady his breathing, the phone rang again. With hesitation, he answered. "You should have listened earlier," the voice murmured. "They have already met with a lawyer. The papers are almost finalized. Soon, what was yours will be theirs." Daniel's grip tightened around the phone. The weight of betrayal was suffocating. He wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding, but deep down he knew better. That night, he didn't sleep. Instead, he found himself pacing the cold floor of his study, thinking of his father's words. A man's wealth is not in what he owns, but in what he fights to protect. He had to act. He had to fight. Morning came too soon. The sun painted the sky with a golden hue, but there was no warmth in Daniel's heart. He drove straight to the courthouse, his mind racing. If what the voice said was true, then Matthew had already filed claims against his property. As he approached the lawyer's office, he hesitated. Would confronting Matthew do any good? Would justice even be on his side? But as he reached the door handle, a thought surfaced, a whisper from deep within his soul. "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today." Strength surged through him. He wasn't alone in this. He would fight, not just for his property, but for the truth. And so, with steady hands and a determined heart, he stepped inside. The battle had begun. Daniel stepped into the lawyer's office, his heart pounding like a war drum. The scent of polished wood and aged paper filled the air, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside him. He clenched his fists as he spotted Matthew sitting across from a well-dressed lawyer. Matthew turned, his face wearing a mask of feigned surprise. "Daniel, what a coincidence," he said smoothly, though his eyes flickered with unease. Daniel's jaw tightened. "No coincidence, Matthew. I know what you've done." Matthew sighed, leaning back in his chair. "You're overreacting. It's just a legal adjustment." "A legal adjustment?" Daniel's voice rose. "You forged my name. You met with a lawyer behind my back. You're trying to steal what doesn't belong to you." The lawyer cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "Mr. Daniel, this matter is legally binding. Your cousin has submitted documentation proving ownership of the land." "Lies," Daniel interrupted. His fingers trembled as he pulled out his own copies of the documents, the real ones signed by his father before he passed. "This is the truth. Whatever you have, it's a forgery." The lawyer hesitated, exchanging a glance with Matthew. Daniel could see it, the slight flicker of doubt. But Matthew, ever the manipulator, leaned forward. "Listen, Daniel," he said, lowering his voice. "This land is wasted in your hands. You don't even use it properly. I can turn it into something bigger, something better." Daniel's stomach twisted. "This land isn't just property, Matthew. It's my father's legacy. It's our family's blood, sweat, and tears." Matthew scoffed. "You're too emotional. Business isn't about emotions. It's about power." Daniel stared at him, his chest tight. How had they come to this? They had grown up together, built memories in that very land. And now, greed had erased it all. The lawyer finally spoke. Mr. Daniel, if you truly believe fraud has taken place, you'll need proof beyond your own words. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Proof. He needed undeniable proof, and he knew exactly where to find it. Without another word, he turned and walked out. He had one shot to expose Matthew's deception, and he wouldn't waste it. That night, Daniel prayed, not for revenge, but for wisdom. God, I have fought battles before, but this one, I don't know how to win. Show me the way. Show me the truth. And then, as if in response, a memory surfaced. His father's old journal. He rushed to his study, digging through shelves until his fingers brushed against the worn leather cover. He flipped through the pages, his breath catching when he found what he was looking for. A handwritten note, dated years ago. In case of my passing, the land belongs solely to my son, Daniel. Any claims otherwise are false. His father had known. He had foreseen the greed, the betrayal, and he had left Daniel the weapon he needed, proof written in his own hand. Tears burned in Daniel's eyes. He wasn't alone. He had never been alone. With renewed strength, he prepared for the final battle. The truth would win, and God would fight for him. The courtroom was cold, sterile, filled with a quiet hum of whispered conversations and rustling papers. Daniel sat at the plaintiff's table, his father's journal clutched tightly in his hands. Across the room, Matthew sat with his lawyer, confidence oozing from his posture. The judge entered, and the room fell into silence. The case was called, and the proceedings began. Matthew's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Matthew Carter, has provided legal documentation proving his rightful ownership of the land in question. The paperwork is signed and notarized. This is a clear case of proper legal transfer. Daniel clenched his fists. Lies built on deception, but he had come prepared. When his turn came, he rose with steady determination. Your Honor, what my cousin fails to mention is that these documents are forged. A murmur spread through the room. Matthew shifted uncomfortably. I have the original will, Daniel continued, holding up the worn journal, written in my father's own handwriting. It clearly states that the land belongs solely to me. This document predates any claims my cousin has filed. The judge leaned forward, peering over his glasses. Do you have proof that this journal is authentic? Daniel nodded. Yes, Your Honor. I have a handwriting analysis report confirming that this was indeed written by my father. Additionally, the original land deed, filed years ago, is still in my name. Matthew's lawyer paled. The judge turned to Matthew. Mr. Carter, do you have a response? Matthew hesitated, then stood. Your Honor, I was only trying to do what was best for the family. I didn't mean to cause harm. A weak excuse, a desperate attempt at redemption, but it was too late. The judge sighed, tapping his gavel. Forgery is a serious offense. Based on the evidence presented, this court finds that the property legally belongs to Mr. Daniel Carter. Furthermore, an investigation into possible fraud will be initiated. Relief flooded Daniel as the verdict settled over the room. Justice had prevailed. The truth had won. As he stepped outside the courtroom, the weight on his shoulders lifted. He looked up at the sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. You fought for me, Lord, he whispered. You led me to the truth. Matthew approached him, his expression unreadable. Daniel, But Daniel raised a hand. I forgive you, Matthew, but trust, that's something you'll have to earn back. Matthew nodded, shame flickering in his eyes. And with that, Daniel walked away, stronger, wiser, and victorious. Because when God fights for you, no one can steal what's yours.